everything changes.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's Sunday, July 5th, 2020. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and a wonderful 4th of July. If you didn't see my video, to see me wish you a happy Independence Day then. I want to talk about the cost of business startup, being a reseller, and also for all of you that run an at-home business, possibly as a YouTuber or an affiliate marketer or a sales marketer, advertiser. This isn't gonna really work for those of you that wanna own a shop or a brick and mortar, because there is a ton of startup costs and investment and out of pocket, from the rent and the deposits and the insurances and the renovations and the furniture to stock those type of places. This is just going to be somebody that's working at home and what it's going to cost to set up your business and get yourself legal and going. So make sure that you do take notes, get a notepad, get your iPad, get your phone, whatever, take your electronic notes, your iPad pen, and put all this down. I'll put them in the corners. I'll put as many links down below as possible. Also, full disclaimer, not a CPA, not a lawyer, can't give you legal or financial advice. So some of this teeters on the edge of that. And finally, every state and area, and especially if you live in another country, this will be for the US, but every state and county and municipality is going to be different with a little bit different cost. I am from Florida. I'm from Tampa, Florida, which is Hillsborough County. And this is relevant to those costs. So make sure you check with your local area for your cost. Okay, business setup number one. When you decide you're going to be a business, a lot of people operate as a hobby or outside of their home or their home office or their dining room or whatever it might be, just on the fly. Once you become legal, there's 3 steps that you have to take, at least here in Florida. Number one is you have to decide if you're going to operate as a sole proprietor, an individual, or if you want to operate as a business like an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp. So if you go onto the IRS's site, IRS.Gov, IRS.Gov, I'll link it below, you can choose to continue to operate as a sole proprietor under your social security number, and you don't have to go through this step. But if you decide to go on the IRS, you can get yourself an EIN. That is an employer's identification number, EIN, an electronic employer's identification number. And so that gives you like a federal tax ID number. So it's up to you if you get that. If you operate as a sole proprietor, you can continue to work on your social security number, and you don't really need an EIN. If you're an LLC or an S Corp or C Corp, you're gonna need to go to IRS.Gov and get an EIN. It takes about 10 minutes to fill it out and get it. They'll give it to you electronically. They'll also mail a copy of it to your home address or your business address, and you're all set, ready to go. Basically what that number does is it allows you to file your taxes under your business's number instead of your social. If you continue to operate under your social security number, that's fine. You'll pay your taxes accordingly with your social security number. That's free. You don't have to pay anything to get a federal tax ID number. That's it, 10 minutes, IRS.Gov. The second thing is you're going to need a state registered name or business name and number. So in Florida, they require us to pay a fee. If we are a sole proprietor operating under the social security number, your business is your name. So if I operated under Casey Paris as a social security number and a sole prop, that's my business name. A lot of you want to operate as another name though. Like let's say I sold candles, my favorite example, it's over there somewhere. Casey's Candles would be a business. Well, I don't operate under that name because I registered as a sole proprietor social security number. So I would need to file what's called a fictitious name. Casey's Candles. I would need to buy that fictitious name to operate under that name. Otherwise, I always have to operate under Casey's Candles. Now, this is a question I get a lot is if you do operate as a sole proprietor under your name, do your eBay names and Amazon names and all of that your store names have to match Casey? They don't. So when you register on the site, you will give them your legal business name, Casey Paris, whatever. But your store name can be anything. It could be CNC. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's just a store display name. Your legal name when you register on the sites has to be your legal name. So keep that in mind. Whatever your store name is, doesn't matter. So in the state of Florida, if you operate under your name and you buy a fictitious name, it's about $60 a year. You'll pay for it one time, you'll own it, and you have to display it here in this state. You have to display it in a local newspaper for 30 days, letting everybody know that Casey is operating as Casey's Candles or Amazing Candles or whatever I choose to operate under. And that's it, about $60. If I choose to be an LLC or a S Corp or C Corp when I register in this state, at least again in Florida, it's called Articles of Incorporation. It's $140 for an LLC, which is what I have. I am a single owner LLC, so I do not operate under my name or my social security. I have a federal EIN number. That was step number one. I then registered in my state as that LLC name, which my company is called Worldwide Sales LLC. I just made it general. It's just the name I came up with. And so Worldwide Sales LLC, if you look it up in Florida, is a registered business entity in this state. Me as the owner personally, and Kate is a signer on that business. She's like a 1% owner to have signing privileges on it. And that's pretty much all it is. And that is $140 a year. I have to renew it once a year. So those two will be 60 or 140. Sole proprietors with a fictitious name are 60-ish, I think, and 140 for the LLC. So that's the only cost during the year. Finally, I have a county cost. So some people refer to this as a license or a reseller's license. There's really no such thing. Some places have what's called a secondhand license or a dealer's license that may be required. In Florida, we just have a county occupational license. It's good for any business. It's not called a reseller's license. It's an occupational license. It covers a ton of industries, and it's $30 or $35 a year. I actually just got the notice in the mail. And that gives us the right to do business in this county. Registering with the state, step 2 was the right to do business in the state, and step 3 is the county. And so that's 30 or 35 bucks. So total for me is about $170 or $175 for the entire year. If you're a sole proprietor, it's going to cost you about $85 a year in the state of Florida. Some states are really expensive. I know over in California, and somebody can confirm this for me, having an LLC, even a single owner LLC, is about $800 a year, if I remember correctly. I've helped a few people do it. I have a few friends in California that have told me it's expensive. So just know to look in your state and county's rules and look it up. Ask somebody that's experienced or owns a business. Find somebody you know, find somebody who's familiar, possibly here in the comment section. If you need questions about your state, or maybe somebody that's watching this is in your state, leave a comment. If you have questions about it, maybe you two can get together and answer each other's questions. Feel free to leave your emails or a way to contact you down below if somebody wants to reach out to you. Okay. Step number 2, a lot of businesses carry insurance, general liability insurance, in case something happens. Now, if you're a photographer or a DJ and you're going out and you're a DJ with electrical cords and somebody trips and falls over your cord and hits their head, and you at a wedding, you definitely need insurance in your business. Same with a photographer taking photos. Somebody's posing on a rock wall or whatever and they fall over. Those are businesses you need insurance. If you have a brick and mortar store, of course you have to have insurance when somebody comes in and out. But if you're somebody who only works at home and does nothing but advertises or sells merchandise or whatever, insurance is kind of one of those things where it's up to you. You could sell something and it ends up hurting somebody or blowing up, or a charger from a radio you sold melts. It may be a good idea to have it, but you have to use your best gut to do that. Now, insurance for most businesses with $1 million general liability for an online business can run anywhere from $30 or $40 a month up to $70 or $80. It depends on the company and the coverages and all that stuff, but it's really not that expensive. You're talking about $500 or $600 for the whole year. So that is something you have to decide on for yourself. If you need somebody, I have a link I can give you. I've done a video about it. I'll link the video below. Okay. Number 3 is once you get set up, you've got your insurance, you've got all the stuff that you need, your licenses, your registrations, you're ready to go, you start buying, you start selling, you need a way to track your numbers. And accounting software and bookkeeping is really, really important. You should have it from day one so you don't fall behind. So number 1 is Excel spreadsheets or Google Sheets. They're free, 100% free. You can go to google.com, search for Google Sheets, and start keeping a spreadsheet. I've done a ton of videos on it. Again, I'll link it below. Cheapest way, easy way, straightforward, especially when you get started. Eventually, you're going to want to upgrade to either QuickBooks or GoDaddy. I recommend either one of them. I feel like QuickBooks is more geared towards professional and bigger companies. I feel like GoDaddy is kind of for the newer, beginner, or basic person. Either is fine. Feel free to disagree with me, personal preference. I use QuickBooks. I've used it for the better part of 8 to 10 years. I use QuickBooks Online Simple Start. The reason I use that, I think it was the cheapest one that had everything I needed. QuickBooks Online has like 2 or 3 different ones, like professional, self-employed, the Simple Start that I use. They all had different little features, and I think I just went down the checklist of side by side, and I was like, what do I need? What do I not need? Need this, don't need this, and Simple Start was the cheapest one, so that's what I got. It has everything I need, and I pay about $200 for the year, so you're talking about what, like 15, 16 bucks a month. I pay it all up front. I think I get a discount because I think if you do the month by month, it's like 20 or 22 a month. So you save like 50 or 60 bucks a year if you pay it all up front. So I just do that. I always do that. And that's number 3, accounting software. Expect GoDaddy, I think, is about 12 to 13. So you're talking about 150 bucks a month or a year versus the 200 a year for QuickBooks. A little more for QuickBooks. It's always been a little more expensive. It's more professional, again, like I said, and it's been around a lot longer. Okay, number 4, and this is for resellers, and this goes for your business that you'll need to make a list for if you do something outside of reselling, and it is your equipment. Most of us, the first 3 things are phones, computers, and tablets. Most of us own a smartphone. I would think the majority of us own a smartphone. Most of us own a computer of some sort or a tablet, a combination of one or the other, or whatever we're gonna use for our daily work. I don't really consider that as an expense. If you want to upgrade them at any time and you buy new ones, they're definitely deductible and an expense. But to get started, whatever you have available to you is probably good. If you don't have a good smartphone, a good computer, then you're gonna have to add that in as a cost. Most smartphones can be leased. You don't have to spend $1,000 out of pocket. You can go give them 25 bucks a month and you're off and running. It's so important to have a nice smartphone. You don't really need a tablet. It's nice to have if you can get one. If you have a computer, that's fine. If your computer is like 20 years old and it barely runs and powers up, it may be time to consider upgrading. You can get a nice Windows computer for 400 or 500 bucks. You can get a nice used Mac for under 1,000. There's definitely options out there. So consider that something that you should think about unless you already have something working, in which case you don't have to spend any money. Okay, resellers need about 4 crucial pieces of equipment to get started. So one is a light kit and one is a backdrop. I consider this the photography setup. With all the new apps that do white backgrounds, you don't have to have this, but it is very helpful. Light kits are 60, backdrops are about 30-ish, 20 to 30-ish. So you can do a whole photo setup for under 100 bucks. They're linked below as well in my Amazon links. If you get them, I appreciate it. It helps support the channel. Number 3 would be a scale. You gotta weigh stuff. If you're shipping anything, you need to know the weights. The scale's linked below. I'll put pictures. It's about 15 to 20 bucks. You can use any one of the brands. I use Accutech 50-pound tabletop. I don't ship a lot over 50 pounds. With our wholesale boxes now, we are shipping more, so I did get a scale that covers 150-pound boxes. A tape gun for shipping, 10 to 15 bucks. Again, I'll link them. Everything that you hear in here is down below. Okay, the final thing is a printer. Thermal printers preferred, regular printers fine, $50 to $150, depending on which one you get. Definitely think about splurging for the thermal printer. It'll save your life, it'll save you money, and it'll save you time. Optional stuff. Now, packing material is free from the USPS for priority. If you do first class or bubble mailers or things like that, you'll need to go through eBay and buy them. If you have an eBay store, you'll get a free coupon, 50 bucks or 25 bucks or 75 bucks for the quarter, depending on your store level. That will cover a lot of packing material. You may have to put a few bucks, 30, 40, 50 bucks out for the quarter. Really not a big cost depending on how many you're shipping, but as you scale up, you'll put out more and more money. It's just a write-off. Expenses for sure, bubble wrap, boxes, plain boxes, envelopes, tape if you don't buy the eBay tape, all kinds of things you can buy for packing materials. But again, they're an expense, they're a write-off, and you get to use that shipping coupon from eBay to help offset most of that cost. Okay. So that is the setup and to get started. So you have everything you need. You can start listing. If you've got your scale to weigh stuff, you've got your registered, you've got your insurance if you decide to get it, you've got your way to track materials when it starts, or costs when it starts, selling stuff for your expenses and your sale prices. And now you've got all of your equipment so you can print labels, so you can take good photos. You're all set. You can start, you can run your business. Number 1, what are the recurring costs per month? Well, we just talked about packing and shipping materials, right? Envelopes, boxes, all that good stuff. Those are gonna be recurring every month or every other month or however often you run out of that stuff, you will need to replace it and buy more. So you'll have to keep track. If you're somebody who's selling, say, 3 or 4 items a day, 100 a month, 100 bubble envelopes or 100 poly mailers, even at 8 or 10 cents a piece, you're not talking about a whole lot of money over the course of a month or 2 months. It just all depends on the sizes and what you're using. eBay, again, gives you that coupon, so not a big cost. When you first get started, it may just be a few bucks a month, 20 bucks a month. As you grow, even to where I am, it's probably a couple $1,000s a year that I spend in materials. I get the offset with the eBay coupons. I use discounts. It's really manageable. Number 2 is your inventory cost. And so here's a good way to figure it out. And this depends again on what you sell. If you're selling things like $20 and $25 pieces of clothes, you probably have a 10 or 15% cost of goods, right? You're buying stuff for $2, $3, $4 and selling it for $15 or $20. That's general. So if you're somebody who's doing $1,000 a month in sales, you can figure out that 150 or 200 bucks a month is your spending on cost of goods sold. And so over the course of the year, we know that's 2 to 3 grand. And as you ramp up, you'll spend more and more and more on inventory to bring in more and bring in more. But really 10, 15, 20% max. If you're somebody who's spending 50% on cost of goods, if you're buying something for say $9 and selling it for 18 or 20, that's not good. One, you're not making any money, but two, you're way overspending on your cost of goods. So figure out what that cost of goods is, and then you'll know based on how much you sell every month, how much is going into the new cost of goods reinvestment. And if you're selling $1,000 and you're at 15% cost of goods, that's $150 cost of goods sold a month. Well, you really should be spending more than 150 because the 150 is just going to replace what you sold, right? So we have this inventory and we sell off a little bit of it and then we spend our 150 and put it back. We want to spend more so we can keep reinvesting and building the business. So something to keep in mind as well. That's when I tell people when they quit their job at work, they better not just have the money to pay the bills. They better have extra money to continue reinvest, or the sales better be high enough to reinvest into it. So 10, 15% of your sales, up to 20%, really that's starting to get a little high depending on what you sell on your cost of goods sold monthly. If you're selling $300 stereo systems and you paid $60 for it, 20%, that's not too bad, right? Okay. Cost of goods sold, inventory cost per month. Any of your expenses for travel, parking, gas, make sure you're tracking those mileage, tracking how many times you go to the gas station, how many miles you're driving. Mile IQ is a great one. Track all of that. It could be, 50 or 100 bucks a month. So it's something to add to that expense of what you're spending. Also, if you go to conferences or take trips over the year, like the eBay open trips that used to happen to Vegas, that expense for me could be $3,000 or $4,000 for that trip for a week. And so I know spread out over the course of a year, it's about $300 a month that has to go towards that trip. So either if you're saving for it as you go through the year, or if you spend it all in one chunk, you do get to write it off, but you know that your expenses are $300 extra a month because you're gonna spend $3,000 or $4,000 on a trip. Just keep that in mind. So that's another monthly occurring cost, even though it's spent all at one time. Some people like to save every month, put 300 in a vacation fund, 300 in a vacation fund, 300 in a vacation fund, and then when it comes time, they've got the money. So that's a good tip as well. Same story, if you plan on investing on a new computer or a new tablet, if it's something expensive, $800, $1,000, that's gonna be another, $80 a month or $100 a month that you need to put away towards that. So these are all recurring and monthly breakdowns, but to get your business started, really to register and get rolling from day one, you can really do all of that, even if you do a sole proprietor and get your county here in Florida, $80, $85. If I signed up for insurance and paid $40, that's $125. If I signed up and got like an accounting program, that's $140. And then if I bought all the equipment, say I spent about $150 and then I bought some packing, maybe $2, you're talking about setting everything up and be ready to roll for about $300 to $350 out the door, as long as you don't live out in California. Sorry, Cali people. That's really how you can get going. Now, as far as your inventory goes, you could start with $50 or $100 or $300 or $3,000. Whatever you have to spend on inventory, you should spend, or at least start actively spending it as you sell it off to replace it, but continuously spending the money. Some people say, what if I don't have a lot of money? Should I reinvest everything or just a little bit? Reinvest as much as humanly possible. So start the business for $300 to $400, very easy. And then start sinking your inventory money into everything you can to resell. Don't blow it if you don't have to on the latest, greatest stuff. Just get yourself going. And once the business is profitable and kind of self-sustaining, then you can start investing in things like a new iPad or a new computer. But do make sure you have the basics that'll get the job done. Don't try to use a 20-year-old computer that takes an hour to load your photos because you're just wasting time at that point. Okay, so $300 to $400 should get your business off the ground. Inventory, if you spend the same $300 or $400 more dollars, you'll have a good amount of inventory to start rolling. You can buy a lot with $300 or $400, at least a decent amount. And for less than $1,000, you can be reselling and making money, and that should make you well over $1,000 in your first month or two. And all the money you invested will come back to you, and then you're just off and rolling with the ball and snowballing and putting everything back into inventory. All right, any questions, comments, concerns, or anybody you want to connect with or ask questions with, Down below, as always, I'll put as many links as I can, and also hopefully some of these pictures showed up in the video. Thanks guys for watching, I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful night. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Good night.